I can now ask you to rise so that we can have the presentation of the colors by the Tulane Navy ROTC, and then please remain standing for the national anthem and our invocation by the Reverend Philip Vandercook.
Let us bow our heads and pray. Our Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this beautiful evening. Father, you are the God that it gives all that is good and beautiful. We thank you for this wonderful weather that is coming our way. We thank you for this opportunity to gather here tonight, to be with friends and coworkers, to network together, also to celebrate Mr. LaGrange and his accomplishments. Father, we pray for him as he continues to lead our port over these next few months. And Father, as he goes on to new and greater things as well, that you will be with him and watch over him. Father, we thank you for the food that we have. We pray that you'll bless it, nourish our bodies. For those who have worked hard to prepare and serve, we ask that you bless them as well. And Father, most of all, we thank you for loving us unconditionally. And we pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Everyone, please take your seats. Good evening and welcome to everyone. My name is Eddie Hayes. I'm the current chairman of the board of the World Trade Center. I'm also honored to be the honorary consul to Ukraine for the state of Louisiana. I'm also an attorney at Leake & Anderson here in New Orleans. Thanks again to everyone for being here. This is a wonderful crowd, and we're looking forward to sharing the evening with everyone. Before we get into the program, I'd like to take a few minutes to acknowledge some of our guests and to say a few thank yous, if you would just bear with me for a few minutes. First, I wanted to acknowledge Senator Conrad Appel, who is here tonight. Senator Appel, please rise so we can all say thank you, Conrad, for being here. I also want to acknowledge former U.S. Attorney Jim Lettens, who's here. Jim, thanks a lot for being here. You all will notice on the stage there are 59 flags that represent all of the various countries that are represented by the Louisiana Consular Corps here in Louisiana. It's something that we're very proud of. We have a significant amount of representation with the international community here in Louisiana. And what I'd like to do is acknowledge the members of the Consular Corps who are here. And as I call your name, if you'd please stand up, and then afterwards we'll recognize you. Jim Sutterfield, the Honorary Consul of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Connie Willems, the Honorary Consul of the Netherlands. Jimmy Baldwin, Honorary Consul of Norway. I'm not sure if she's here, but Pat Denishow, Honorary Consul of Canada, if she's here. Greg Rusevich, Honorary Consul of Serbia. John Fay, Honorary Consul of Denmark. Jimmy Coleman, Honorary Consul of Great Britain, and a former recipient of this award. And I'm not sure if Donna's here, but Donna Fresh, the Honorary Consul of Japan. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate very much your support. I'd also like to thank tonight's global sponsor, the Port of New Orleans, as well as our continental sponsors, Cheniere, Coleman, Johnson, Artigues, and Jurisic, Latrim, the Kearney Companies, Ochsner Health System, and the Port of South Louisiana. Let's give them all a round of applause for supporting the event tonight. We also have a host of regional and local sponsors. Their names are in your programs, and at some point, they're posted on the screens behind me. I also want to thank Republic National Distributing Company for the generous donation of the alcohol and the libations for tonight. And finally, I want to acknowledge the World Trade Center's Board of Directors and ask them all to please stand as I call their names if they're here. Robbie Evans, Jerry Hingle, Tom Spears, Michael Olivier, Stephen Hanneman. Please rise, gentlemen and ladies. Wynn Radford, Gary Lagrange, Lisette Terrell, David Fennelly, Paul Oakwin, Jason French, Shelby Westfeld Mills, John Vorhorst, Christopher Sullivan, there's still more, sorry, Tom Cole, Jeff Corbin, and then non-voting members of our board and ex officio members, Larry Boudreau, Corrado Giacona, and then actual board members who are definitely not here, Don Pearson and David Kearney. So ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our board, please. At this time, I'd like to invite our CEO, Dominic Knoll, to come up to give a few words, and then we'll get on with the program after that. So Dominic, please.
Thank you, Eddie. My name is Dominic Knoll. I'm the CEO here with the World Trade Center, and I'm very happy to be here today. I wanted to let the board members stand up, but now Eddie stole my thunder, so I'm going to need to think of something else. As I said, I'm very happy to be here tonight. It's my distinct honor to welcome you one more time. You can hear I have a little cough, so just stay with me. And you know, like I said, I do apologize for that. I also would like to thank the board members, the board of directors, but also the whole Gala committee and the whole World Trade Center team for making this here happening. I would like not that they stand up anymore, but just let's give them one more time a real nice round of applause. Thank you. So my remarks will be short today because this here is a gala, so we should have fun here and we shouldn't talk too much about business. But I have a couple items that I still wanted to mention tonight, and so please be with me. It will be over shortly. So Through the years, we at the World Trade Center worked on many initiatives, projects, programs, as well as together with many local, national, and international groups, private as well as the public sector, to try to positively benefit the outcomes for our members as well as for our state. But no other event is as special as this gala here tonight for us. The reason is, we're not just liking to throw a party, but it's because we want to thank all of you for your hard work and your involvement through the year with us. We give an award this year to Gary, who truly deserves it, as well as we celebrate the success of our great industries. So everyone in this room should be proud of themselves. Every one of you has contributed to make us one of the most important export centers in the United States, over and over again. Let's give us an applause for that. The same goes for the state. Our gala tonight is a great opportunity to celebrate Louisiana's tremendous economic success. With our new governor that embraces international trade, our new Secretary of Economic Development who has a vast experience, and a dedicated international team that is hardworking and backs it up, we at the World Trade Center look forward to a very bright future, and we really all do here in our state with that team we have right now. You know, I look at you, Greg, but it's excellent. Throughout the trade numbers, although our trade numbers are down, and when I talk about that, it's really globally, our region is holding strong against it and is still one of the hottest regions in America in economic development as well as international trade. There we go. Make no mistake about it, that has a reason. One being our good infrastructure as well as our river system with our 5 deepwater ports. These guys play a big part in it, and they handle a lot of cargo, and many of them are here tonight. So thank you for you guys for handling the cargo and for doing the work you do. I know I don't have to tell you that, but rather thank you, as you're the ones generating this favorable business climate, handling the cargo, or working on generating future business to come for our state. So we here at the World Trade Center only do whatever we can to assist you in making your business as well as our state as strong as it is right now for future generations to come. Through your help, the New Orleans World Trade Center is more than just an advocate for trade. Our mission statement is create jobs and wealth through international trade, economic development, and other activities, a mission that we take very seriously and with pride. As said, we work in many areas, everything from trade services, industry committees, research, education, speakers, trade and cultural missions, you name it. But in recent years, we have been focused more and more and very active to promote membership or to promote members' businesses in our state by being part of many activities that helped our members to promote their exports, increase their volume, and therefore grow their bottom line. And this would not be possible without you. So therefore, I will close my remarks by thanking everyone one more time being here tonight. Whenever you are here as an investor, a sponsor, a member, or as a guest, your commitment to the World Trade Center, to our great state, and to foster international trade and commerce guarantees the full economic potential for our community. Thank you, and please enjoy this meal and this gala. Thank you.
I'd like to first start by acknowledging and welcoming the members of the Schreiber family who are here tonight, and invite them to please stand after I call their names. Of course, Mary Schreiber, Jean's beloved wife. Elizabeth Schreiber, Jean and Mary's daughter, who is a junior at Georgia. Jeremy Schreiber, Gene's son, and his wife, Cynthia. Thank you all so very much for being here. We really appreciate you all being here. This is a particularly poignant time in the international trade world. The recent election cycle has placed international trade front and center, a place that we've all sort of clamored for over the years, but we weren't so sure once it happened what it would mean and what it would look like. And it's been interesting to say the least. And I've been wondering to myself over the past couple of days in preparation for tonight what our friend Gene would think of this. And I was talking to our recipient tonight about what our namesake would think about trade being front and center. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We used to clamor for people to listen to us about these things, and now it's all the rage. And, I personally think that in his own way, Gene would have calmed me down and said, okay, Eddie, just relax. These are the rules. We're all going to play by them. Things are going to be fine. Don't get too excited. And then I talked to our recipient tonight, and he said, no, he'd be on the table dancing, loving this. So I don't know what he'd think, but it's fun to think about him being present during this amazing time when the issues that all of us care so deeply about are right there. And for good, bad, worse, and different, they're there. And I think it behooves all of us to take them on and to work towards the things that we all care about, which is improving international trade and improving economic relations, but doing it in the right way. And so in that respect, I think it's a great time to bestow this honor tonight. So I'm really proud to be here. I'm really honored to be the one to introduce this award, and I hope the Schreiber family knows that. It's a deep honor for me to be the one here bestowing this honor on our recipient tonight. Gene served with the first Peace Corps group that was sent overseas by President John F. Kennedy. And hopefully you'll be able to see that from the photos on the monitor here in a second. There we go. Gene was stationed in Tanzania. Oh, we lost it. But Gene was stationed in Tanzania at the young age of 23. And he was present when the then British colonial rule ended and independence was celebrated in that young country. This award is reserved for those who follow in Gene's footsteps. And we reserve this award for individuals who demonstrate a high level of knowledge, leadership, service, achievement, in all the things that we who work in this area and hold it so dear, all those things that we really, that are near and dear to us, which is international trade and diplomacy. And I think, without hesitation, I can tell you that this year's recipient more than satisfies the criteria that we've sort of laid out for Gene's honor. And I know for a fact that Gene would agree, because he told me that he holds this person in high regard. And that's the first time of the 3 or 4 years that we've been doing this that I've actually been able to say that. And that means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to you all out there tonight. When I think about the recipient of this award, the thing that comes to my mind, and just bear with me for a minute, is this phrase that I use with my students a lot at the law school, which is color and texture. We talk about trade agreements, and we talk about the law, and we talk about the things that are set forth, but it's always very important for us to add color and texture to the things that are black and white. And there's nobody I know who adds more color and texture to the things that we all work on so dearly than tonight's recipient. And in that respect, I'm really excited for this award to be bestowed on tonight's recipient. So to do that honor, I'd like to introduce and welcome Mr. Greg Rusevich to give a few remarks about tonight's honoree and to present the award. You all know Greg. He's the former chairman of the board of the commissioners of the Port of New Orleans, and he's the CEO of Transoceanic Development. And so I'm going to pass the baton to Greg to introduce tonight's recipient.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Eddie. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the Schreiber family. Gene has a powerful, lasting legacy, and it's just global trade and international commerce just ran through Gene's veins and blood. And Gene did so much for this region and so much for the state and so much for this nation. We'll be forever grateful. And I still remember those days, Mary, when, I'd look back and I'd be in the office and my dad would be upstairs, with Gene, plotting the next day with the Saudi ambassador or the head of the Philippines or the Italian head of state. So just wonderful memories, and God bless him, and a powerful, lasting legacy. Thank you for giving us Gene for a little while. Thank you. Thanks so much. Now, we're here today and tonight to honor the legacy of Gary Lagrange. Gary's a swashbuckler. He walks in the room, you know it. Big smile, big handshake, gravitas just runs through Gary. Big personality, a people's person. Gary's frequently described as a blue-collar port director. How appropriate these days after the election. He's all about the team, all about the team. And when you speak to Gary, he only wants to talk about the team. He's fiercely loyal. He leads, we follow as a port community, and have for 15 years. He rolls up the sleeves. Gary's one of those guys that just gets the job done. And he's the record breaker. Few records he breaks, constantly. Last 5 years, record after record, back to back to back record revenue accomplishments. Every year, record revenue. 36 million immediately post-Katrina, now 60 million to the port. Imagine that bar chart. Fun bar chart to look at, believe me. Last 2 years, record number of TEUs, approaching 600,000 a year. And his leadership in looking forward has now helped to develop a great plastics handling capability for the Port of New Orleans and for the region. And as those petrochemical plants come online, that will add significantly more containers to that 600,000. 3 years in a row, over 1 million cruise passengers. Now remember, 15 years ago, no cruise passengers. Now over 1 million 3 years in a row. Number one, exporter of poultry, Port of New Orleans. Largest LME port in the U.S. He's just the record breaker. We could keep hitting every single record tonight. It's fun to do. But the successes don't just happen. We look at the successes that don't just happen by accident. They have taken Gary's vision, Gary's teamwork, and Gary's execution. And his national and international colleagues have tremendous respect for Gary. Past chairman of the American Association Ports Authority, past chair Gulf Intercoastal Canal Association, past president National Waterways Conference, recipient of the C. Alvin Bartell Award, previous Propeller Club Maritime Person of the Year, Institute of Steel, Man of Steel. How appropriate. Frequently you can tell the character of a person on whether they run to the fire or whether they run away from the fire. Gary runs to the fire. And Gary started at the port the day before 9/11. Thanks to Titans Boise Bollinger and Angus Cooper, David Schulenkamp, Hank Larsella, and a few others for a terrific hire and a lasting legacy. He was also front and center for Katrina, for the Katrina disaster. This last story I really want to tell here because it is very pertinent to Gary. Gary never left for Katrina. He never left, never fled. On Monday, the night of Katrina, after Katrina had passed, the original hurricane, Gary turns his office into Camp Gary, spends a night in his office with his close-knit team. The next day, of course, the levees break. So the levees break. Gary and his trusted partner and a few others, Joe LaBarriere, and Gary and the group drive to the West Bank. They're trying to escape as the floodwaters are chasing in pursuit. Gary is there with Joe and his team, leaving, going to the West Bank, trying to escape the floodwaters. But he's undeterred. He's the last man standing. He says, you know what, we're not going to give up. Let's go to West St. Mary, where I started my career. He goes to West St. Mary, to the port there, which welcomes him, goes and spends the night in his own office, his old office. Now we're Tuesday night, spends the night, first night of Katrina in his office in Port of New Orleans. Second night is in West St. Mary. 2 a.m., arrives, spends the night in his old office in West St. Mary. Next day at dawn, 6 a.m., it's back to the Port of New Orleans with Joe. Drive back to the Port of New Orleans, to his beloved port, so that he could soon announce to the world on Wednesday that the port would soon be open for business. But on the way, he had to get some communication, so he stops and picks up 3 satellite phones to communicate. Starts communicating immediately with Marad. Marad says, you know, we got this ship there. You can turn that ship into your offices for the next 6 months or as long as you have them. So Gary gets stationed at the ship, starts bringing his team back to stay in the ship. Again, never fled, never left. 11 days later, 11 days after Katrina, port's open for commerce. Commerce back, the First Lights vessel shows up, back open for business. Cargo's moving back to the Port of New Orleans. It sent a message to the world, we're back. And as you've seen the last 10 years, we're really back. Nobody expected what they've seen. So assessing his body of work and looking at it, it's like reading a novel, really interesting, exciting novel with a daring, effective swashbuckler that's the lead character who just figures out a way to get the job done and win. It's a fun read. It's not always pretty, but it's always exciting and always effective. And most importantly of all, Gary is a wonderful, wonderful human being. Big heart, loves people, a great human being, which is the most important thing of all. Gary, come up and receive your award. God bless you, brother. It's an incredible honor, my incredible honor, to present to you the Gene Schreiber Award.
Please, please. Wow. I feel like Garfield. Jimmy, last year, I must apologize. We were on a trip to China and we missed you last year. I made the first 2, but God bless you for bringing Gene Schreiber on board in 1979, for having the wisdom and the vision to do that. Thank you. And our first recipient was Senator Mary Landrieu then, and Congressman Charles Bustani was a second recipient. Jimmy, you're in good ground with those 2 people. There's no question about it. You know, Mary and I are both from Franklin, Louisiana. There you are, Colonel Wilby, Bonnie Wilby, her dad. Elizabeth, congratulations on all of your achievements. God, you're growing so fast. But how in the hell did you choose Georgia? Jeremy, I'm going to hold you to it. 601 Metairie Road, I think it is. 601. Jeremy's got a place out there. And I think he still has the, I don't know what else to call it other than an alligator crawfish truck or something like that, but 601 Metairie Road. Go see Jeremy at 601 Metairie Road. You're guaranteed to pass a good time. There's no question about it. And I have to say that here tonight, certainly everybody needs some support, and the wind beneath my wings tonight are my daughter Caroline, and my son-in-law Tom. Stand up and say hello. Stand up, come on. Thank you for being here. You know, in 1961, and I don't want to repeat anything or be redundant, but in 1961, at 23 years old, Eddie, you were right on, when Gene decided to join the first original Peace Corps. Bear with me. I said this the other day, I'm going to say it again now. One of the worst moments in the world, very frustrating, is to try to find your glasses with no glasses. I got them. But in 1961, right after the inauguration of President JFK, John F. Kennedy, Gene took the challenge. And it was a really, really, really easy thing to do. I was too young. Gene, like Mike Olivier, is about 4 years older than me. Mike's also from Franklin, Louisiana, Committee of 100. So I live here in New Orleans. I love New Orleans. It took me my lifetime to get to New Orleans, but I still remember where I came from. And Mary and Mike, God bless Franklin, huh? And so you remember in his inaugural speech, JFK said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Well, Gene took that to heart. And Eddie talked about it a little earlier. Gene was a St. Louis native, 23 years old. He was a young civil engineer. And I won't give you the Gene Schreiber story tonight. Eddie's kind of hit on it already. The smartest thing Gene ever did was marrying Mary. And coincidentally, we're both residents of State Street at one time. And I love nothing more than Halloween night to go down to Gene and Mary's house. And Gene was out there as either Dracula or something ghoulish in the front yard, welcoming all the children, along with Gary and the children, into the kitchen to get something more than just candy, maybe a bowl of chili or whatever Mary had prepared. And that was really, really great. In my travels, and I have traveled quite a bit around the world with Gene Schreiber, I have several memories, and I've said several of them to some of you individually, but one that I certainly will never forget was when the Spanish Plaza, the tile was wearing out maybe 15 or 20 years ago. Paul, I was at the Port of South Louisiana then, and we needed to replace the tiles at the Spanish Plaza. So we took a trade mission to Spain. Jim Singleton was the ranking official at the time, city councilman for the city of New Orleans, Gene, myself, and 5 or 6 others. And on that trade mission, we flew an airline then known as Spanair. Larry, you would remember that airline. Well, Spanair canceled our flight home from Spain, and we had to fly to London, where we were going to take British Air on another flight home. Well, Gene, I don't know how many of you knew Gene really well, but Gene had the first penny that he ever earned. Gene could pinch a penny if there was anybody I ever saw. And so British Air gave us, shaving foam and a razor blade and deodorant, and that was about it. And Gene said, "We have no clothes. We have to wear the same clothes for 2 days. This is going to be tough." I said, "Oh, Gene, come on. It's only 2 days. We can live with it." Well, Gene went out on a mission, and he euphorically came back to the lobby later where I was, and I ran into him, and he said, "Gary, you will never believe what I just found." I said, "What, Gene?" He said, "I bought 3 pair of underwear for $1.99. And Gene and I are big guys. We're about the same size. He said, "You can have one." I said, "You going to give me a pair of underwear?" I said, "Yeah." So Gene gave me a pair of underwear so I could change into clean underwear to fly home the next day. I went up and went to bed, took a shower. The next morning, I put on Gene's underwear. Gene and I are big guys. Speedos. Speedos. I said, Gene, I could have had nothing and it'd have been better. These are very uncomfortable. Gene Schreiber was fun to travel with. Gene Schreiber knew no enemies, and everybody worldwide and globally loved Gene Schreiber. Another time we were in Panama at the embassy, and I'll cut this short. Rusty said I only had 15 minutes. I'm down to 10. Rusty Barketing, one of our commissioners. Bill Bergeron, another one of our commissioners, please. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the exhausted Roosters, all of the former commissioners who are here tonight. One's wounded. He just got wounded on a trip, Joe Toomey. I'd ask all of you guys to please stand up, the former dock board commissioners who have schooled me, taught me, and we have bared arms together across the country. All of you guys stand up. A.J. Gibbs, Joe Toomey, Ed Chase, Greg Rusevich, John Fay, Senator Conrad Appel. I hope I got you all. These guys serve for nothing. They serve a one-term limit of 5 years for nothing. And what I love about it is I'm the winner because I develop friends. I develop people with foresight, people with ideas. But we're at the Panama Embassy one night, and Gene, in a panic, comes up to me at the end of the night. It's 11 o'clock. Everybody's leaving the embassy. And he says, Gary. I said, Gene, what's wrong? What's wrong? He says, do you have $500 on you by chance? I said, Gene, I do. Why? He says, the band won't let me go unless they get cash. They won't take a check. So I gave Gene $500. Admittedly, he paid me back, Mary, Elizabeth, Jeremy, and that was just Gene. The last one about Gene that I'll talk about tonight, and I feel so worthy, humbled to receive this award for the team. And I'll talk about the team momentarily as I look to the future, Brandy. And but Gene was a workaholic. Mary, right? Gene kept some late hours, and I know for a fact that he was not out carousing or partying. He was working. You know how I know this? Inquiring minds told me from secret sources that they could tell every time Gene worked late because they would keep their food and their lunch in the refrigerator for the next day, and they could follow the cookie crumbs up and down the office, and they could tell every place that Gene had been by following the cookie crumbs. Not his cookies, but nevertheless, somebody didn't have their cookies the next day. That was our friend Gene Schreiber. Gene had a quote that I loved, and it all sums up international trade. And the Consulate Corps, I salute all of you for being here tonight. The Consulate Corps, Gene brought even to my first port of West St. Mary, which was 100 years ago, to Dixie Plantation, your home. And a busload of people arrived, and my duty was to take them to the port of West St. Mary. And so I took them to the port of West St. Mary at that time, Pudgy, who succeeded me at the port of West St. Mary. And Gene said, wow, this is great. Where's the port? I said, you're here. This is the port. I said, you've got to use your imagination. The railroads are going to be here. The roads are going to be here. The transit sheds are going to be there. The dock's going to be here. And the channel's going to be here. Gene said, Gary, can you invite us back when it's here? And we got it there, right, Pudgy? Eventually. But Gene had a saying, basically, Jimmy, you love this, you recognize this, but Gene became a key source of international trade and diplomacy through the years, not only for New Orleans, but for all of Louisiana, after Jimmy made the great deal and a great offer to Gene to come and save New Orleans back in those days. Thank you again, Jimmy. But his quote was, "Trade revolves around people. Countries don't do business. Companies don't do business. People do business." That's a Gene Schreiber quote, and he's absolutely right on. I could not have ever said it any better. And when Gene was about to retire, there was a story that Jennifer de Gregorio with the Times-Picayune wrote, and I quote his final statement and his final quote in that retirement announcement was, and I can identify with this because Gene was a mentor, I'm his protege. "I'm not a golfer. I'm not a fisherman," Schreiber said. "I'll stay involved in trade." And till this day, isn't it ironic that Gene posthumously is still involved in trade and having an effect on all of us and on this great city, this great port, and this great state? Thank you, Gene Schreiber. Thank you. I'll briefly leave you with a story. It was a quote by Helen Keller, and the only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision. No vision. When I was 9 or 10 years old, my father was an elected official. He owned a furniture and appliance store in Franklin, Louisiana, Tashland Furniture and Appliance, and my father was a parish president on the parish council for 20 years. And he had a camp out on a lake called Lake Fosse Point that we would go to, particularly during the summer, quite often, 20 minutes away from Franklin. And we would fish, we would work in the garden, we would paint, we would do things. And kind of like Boudreaux and Thibodeau, I'm not telling a Boudreaux Thibodeau joke, Rusty, don't worry. He would have a Budweiser and I'd have a Pepsi Cola. And I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and he would say constantly, "Son, what this area needs is a port." A port? I'm 9 or 10 years old. What the hell is a port? I didn't want to hear that word, port. I'm tired of hearing that story. What this area needs is a port. Well, many years later, I go on and I get my master's degree in urban planning, and I become the regional planning director for Lafayette and the 8 parishes surrounding Lafayette. At that time, I get a call back from a guy by the name of Mike Foster from our hometown of Franklin, right? We know Mike. Mike went on to become a senator and then a governor for 2 terms. And he said, "Sport, we've been appointed to this thing called a Port Commission." This was 1975. "And we just don't know what to do. Can you help us, being in economic development?" I said, "Well, Mike, send me the enabling legislation. I'll read it, and I'll try to determine what you're supposed to do." So I read it. I said, well, I went down and I met with him at Oak Lawn Manor at his home. And I said, "Mike, you guys are charged with creating a port, building a port, offering gainful employment and an increased way and a better way of life for people. It's that simple. We don't have any money." I said, "Mike, it also says that you have a 2.5 mil tax, ad valorem tax. Without going to the voters, you can pass that tax legally by the legislature. I don't advocate this, by the way. We don't do it in New Orleans. But you can do that and borrow the money from the parish council, issue a letter of credit, get you a pro bono engineer, get you a pro bono attorney, and get a hired gun, for God's sake, and go out and build a port somewhere." So they came up with 7 sites with the engineer, and it was about 6 months later, the phone rang, and he said, "Sport, we're doing exactly everything you said to do. We want you to be our first port director." And that was 1976, and that's how I became a port president and have been doing this for 41 years at 4 ports. And the greatest port that I've always wanted to be at, the only port that I ever knew, my uncle was a purser for Delta Steamship Company, and we used to pick him up every other Sunday at the docks here at the Port of New Orleans. When I was a little older, he cruised on sailed on the Del Nord and the Del Sud down to Brazil and other places in South America. So I guess it kind of ran in a family at some point in time. And that's how it all started, just something that simple. And I look at all of our youth and our young people, and it's time for a changing of the guard in many respects. And I look at our transition that we're going through. I was going to retire from the Port of New Orleans on April 1st, but nobody believed me, so I changed it to April 2nd. True story. But I'm going to stay in the industry, and I'll stay in the business. And I look at my dear friend Joe Accardo, who I respect eminently out there, to hope and try to fill some pretty big shoes, even though he's not that big a guy. His shoes are big. And to take over the Ports Association, which consists of all 32 ports in Louisiana, including the Port of New Orleans, but not with hands-on, not closely and tightly. I look at a lady that we selected from the Port of San Diego, Brandy Christian, along with the consensus of our commissioners, to become our Chief Operating Officer. And now she will succeed me on April the 2nd or 3rd. And Brandy, I ask you to stand up and take a bow. So, no, please, so everybody can see your face. The future of the Port of New Orleans. And let me tell you what, that could be a little dangerous when you mix that West Coast culture with that Gulf Coast culture. I understand she can do the Zydeco, though. I got that firsthand. And she can party with the best of us. But I'll close tonight and thank you and quote a few quotes. In all of our lives, when you wake up tomorrow morning, I want you to think about this. It's Saturday morning. You all have your things to do. Some of you will go to work. Some of you will sleep late, sleep in. Some of you go do your errands, the car wash, and whatever. The worst thing you can do in life is nothing. Nothing. So when you wake up tomorrow and Sunday and every day the rest of your life, do something. Do something. It may not be right, it may be wrong, but do something. The worst thing you can do is neutral. The worst thing you can do is to neutralize yourself. Go out there and try to make something happen, and I guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, you will win. I challenged Senator Appel one night on a late arrival to the New York Hilton to run for the state Senate at midnight over a martini. And he looked at me like I was nuts. And today, he's no longer my friend. He thinks I am really nuts. And I said, "You need to run for the Senate, young man." And he did. And I got to tell you, he's one of the most honorable legislators and senators that has ever come about. And he stayed the course for international trade with his legislation. Never let your memories be greater than your dreams. And one of my favorite people in the world that I'm a big fan of, Reverend Joel Osteen, some of you may be as well, is always remember the journey is more important than the destination. The journey is more important than the destination. Have fun. God bless you. And thank you for this wonderful, great honor. Mary, Jeremy, Elizabeth, God bless you all.
Great job, Gary. Hey, man. Wonderful job. What a great speech. Gene is actually turning over in his grave in excitement. If that's possible. We're going to give you the award.
Oh, okay.
And then we're going to do one more thing for you.
Okay.
Greg, why don't you do the honors?
Thank you very much.
Go ahead. No, he's going to hand it to you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I've asked Gary to please stay up here. You can put that down. We're going to bestow one more honor on Gary, and to do that honor, I'd like to introduce and welcome the treasurer of the World Trade Center's board of directors, Mr. Tom Spears. Tom, please come up. And I'd also like to ask all of our board members and any past presidents of the World Trade Center who are here tonight to please come on up to stage, please.
You shouldn't have changed.
Might be room.
You're 4 years older than me?
I don't know if we have enough room. Thank you, Eddie, for a nice introduction. The Order of the Plimsoll Mark, the World Trade Center's highest honor, is reserved for heads of states, cabinet ministers, ambassadors, and other visiting dignitaries for their contributions to world peace, trade, and understanding. Recipients of the award include Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Mikhail Gorbachev, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, and Madeleine Albright, and numerous ambassadors from other nations during their visits to the World Trade Center. They all embody the mission of our organization, but there's nobody else who exemplifies it more than this evening's recipient. It is with great pleasure that we present the mark to Gary LaGrange this evening.
Well, thank you very much. It looks like a ribbon or something you're supposed to wear, and I'm very impressed. In 1981, I was asked to run for the state senate, and I went to talk to the governor at that time and asked for his opinion. Should I run for the state senate? The trial lawyers wanted me to get rid of, wanted me to work for tort reform. And I thought really seriously about it, and a couple of things came up. I'll cut to the chase. And he said, don't run. The governor at that time did. And he said, and I said, why, Governor? And he said, because kings get shot at. Be a maker of kings. And I've strived my entire life and my career to be a maker of kings. Quite honestly, I'm afraid to put this on because it looks like something a king would wear. But nevertheless, God bless you all. Like Garfield the cat, I'm not worthy. Thank you all so much. Thank you. For the team. For the team. This is all for the team, and I got to tell you, no one guy or gal does this. It's a team effort. And the team doesn't end with the port of New Orleans. It extends to all of the other ports of South Louisiana, Mississippi State Port Authority, Port of West St. Mary, and all of you in the industry out there. It's a team effort. God bless you all for what you do. If you're visiting, Major Mike, I know you live in Tampa. Get your ass over here. Move here. We want you here. God bless you all and all of you good people that I've met tonight. If you're not in New Orleans now, get here. Edgar Chase will tell you, you're going to love this place. I love it, and it's a place to be. God bless you all. Safe travels wherever you're headed.
Gary, that wasn't even scripted, dude. Good.